wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Hi Sunday Stoic listeners, and welcome to my first co-hosted episode of the Sunday Stoic. I'm Al, and would like to use this opportunity to look at the why of Stoicism. After we've been studying the philosophy for a while, we get used to the things we should remember and the things we ought to do. We may know about the dichotomy of control, we may know about the four virtues, but can we remember why? Why should we follow these ancient teachings? What's in it for us? To answer this, I would like to recount a time before I was introduced to Stoicism. I was fresh out of college and had started work at a factory. Each year, the factory would shut down for a maintenance period. I witnessed my first maintenance period just after I started, and then a year later, it was my turn. I was the lead operations engineer, and it was my responsibility to review all the shutdown procedures and update or write new ones as required. I'd spent months before the event working through the different method statements and aiming for perfection in everything I produced. I wanted this to be the perfect shutdown, to show everybody that I was an amazing engineer. During the shutdown period, my job was to respond to any issues and work out what to do. If everything goes absolutely perfectly, then there's nothing for me to do. For the first few weeks, there was a continuous stream of operators and supervisors coming up to me and telling me that something was wrong with one of my procedures, and I took every one of these to heart. There were genuine mistakes that I had made. Of course there were going to be. I was fresh out of college and I wasn't experienced on the plant. Of course I would be making mistakes, but I hated it. I hated myself for making these mistakes and not knowing any better. I hated myself for allowing these mistakes to happen. Then there were the historic issues with the method statements. Many of them had actually remained mostly unchanged from the previous shutdown. I'd just updated the year and put my name on the front. But because I was new, and the operators knew this, they checked a bit more closely than it had been the name of a plant veteran on the front. This really wound me up. I thought they must have hated me. They were just trying to find a reason to criticise me, to make me look bad. Of course, this wasn't the case. They just wanted to make sure that the jobs were done correctly and safely. Yes, they were looking more closely than normal, but it wasn't out of malice. They were trying to help me. The third type of problem was the ones that no one could have expected. A piece of equipment breaking, a pipe getting blocked. The exact things I was supposed to be dealing with. These were the reasons that I had no planned work assigned to me. And yet, I still took them personally. Why was the universe conspiring against me to make my shutdown last longer? Looking back, it was a pretty pathetic time. As I said, I was before I'd learnt about Stoicism, and in particular the dichotomy of control. Consider the opening passage of Epictetus in Caridian. Some things are within our control, others are not. Things that are within our control include our opinions, aims, desires, and aversions. These are our own actions. Things not in our control include our health, property, and reputation. Things that are not our own actions. The things in our control are by nature free, unrestrained, unhindered, but those not in our control are weak, submissive, and belonging to others. If you believe that what belongs to others is your own, then you will be hindered. You will lament, you will be disturbed, and you will find fault with both gods and men. That last part, you will be disturbed, you will find fault with both gods and men, definitely described how I felt during that shutdown period. I found my breaking point and kept going. On several occasions, I walked out of the factory gates and was convinced I would never come back. I won't come back. They can't make me, I muttered to myself as I walked through the turnstile. But of course I did. The next morning, I had calmed down enough to see a bit clearer. I went back in, and the whole cycle repeated again. The problem was, I cared too much about my job. I wanted to be a great operations engineer. I wanted to return the factory to full production as quickly as possible. I wanted things that were not up to me. Even if I was an impeccable operations engineer, the plant would have still been delayed. Even if I'd done my job perfectly, there would still have been issues to deal with throughout the event. By focusing on all the external things, I was allowing myself to be yanked around by fate and spent more time worrying about what other people would think than about how to solve the problem at hand. Years later, I was still involved in shutdowns, but the experience was very different. I had learnt that the only thing I could control was my own actions. When something unexpected came up, it was my duty to find the best solution. When someone suggested a change to a method statement, it was my duty to use the information to make the method statement as high quality as I could. Even if I'd made a mistake weeks earlier, that was no longer under my control. All I could do was focus on responding properly, admit the mistake, correct it, and move forward. I no longer cared about the exact date we returned the plant to service. I only cared about doing my best in each situation. As long as it wasn't my own actions that were holding things up unnecessarily, then I was happy. So that's my hard-learned reason for following the dichotomy of control. When I focused on external things, I was miserable. I hated my life and myself. Worse still, despite all the extra stress, it didn't make me perform my duties any better. Once I focused on how to respond to external events, I felt more in control. I was less stressed, and I was better at my job. I was living a much better life. Carpe diem.